Good morning. This is Drawing One class. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about what's going to happen the second half, but it's always good to review the first half and see what we've done and what we've accomplished so far this semester. If you'll remember, the very first day of class, during the introduction, I asked you to do a drawing of your hand. You could draw a leaf with it, or hold a leaf, or draw both of them together. And this is an example. There were many, many wonderful drawings of your hands, and it really revealed and gave me some information about who you were, a little bit by the line quality, whether or not you had drawn for the first time, or if you'd had semesters of experience. You'd been drawing since you were 3, but it was insightful to see and delightful. And this is an example from many wonderful drawings, but it gave me a starting point to talk with you about the structure of the course, what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be focusing on, or in 4 areas. One had to do with detail work, the contours that make the drawing look more representational. Also, we talked about proportions, and that's something that we've been working on. Value, which would create volume, and a thing called naturalism, which is where the hand is, there's actual observation going on by looking at the hand, and the pose of that hand was something that gave it a more realistic look. The next assignment had to do with contour line, and this is an example where I asked you to select 10 objects, talk with you about what contour line drawing was, the importance of it. It is a way to coordinate our eye-hand coordination, increasing our perceptual acuity. It's an exercise that artists do over and over again, and it's something you go back to and want to go back to practice to get better. So here's an example where they're drawing the top and the side of the object, which gives it a more three-dimensional look. There's appears to be a planar analysis, maybe, yeah. A couple of places where they've drawn highlights, that they've captured that also in the drawing. For more practice, I had you draw your shoes and draw them from different angles, show the highlights, draw the sides, the top, the detail work, and get it as accurate as possible. Contour line drawing, you could lift off and put your pencil back down on the paper. Continuous line is one continuous line where you never do lift off, and from appearance here it was a contour line drawing. So it's something that, again, that's very important, as I mentioned in the last slide. The more you do this exercise, the better you get, the stronger your observation skills, and the more accurate the drawings are going to become. This one particularly like the comparison of a stiff shoe and a soft shoe, excuse me. I thought was an interesting combination to make that comparison. Continuous line drawing is the next step, where we're basically doing a contour line drawing, but we're constantly moving, never lifting off the paper. You move from one object to another, and you see the lines that are going across the page from one object to another, and that you're actually creating muscle memory. You're beginning to observe the distance, the space from one object to another, look at relationships where objects are intersecting each other, to help you define the forms accurately in proportion to each other and their placement and scale on the paper. We move from drawing a couple of objects using continuous line drawing into drawing a crowded area in your house. Going back in, and if you can see, the person's actually drawn their hand, and the paper they're drawing on but you're constantly moving from one edge to another. So if you want to get to, say, the hand to the typewriter, to the typewriter to the couch, you never do lift off, you just keep moving. And again, you're observing and absorbing information, muscle memory, you can call it, and seeing these relationships of one object to another. They have an animated quality, which is really, I think, quite nice in this particular technique. It's not about a finished product. This is one of the things to get over, realizing that drawing is about a process. And even though we have these wonderful drawings that come out of the process, the focus is on the process itself. And so we get over that idea of trying to make it look perfect or trying to make it look wonderful, trying to make it so we can sell it on the market. When we get past that and begin to really get locked into the process of drawing, then really magical things start to happen. We made a big leap going from contour, which was it's a very intuitive, fluid process, more sensory, to organizational line. And organizational line is a process of learning to locate. It's an analytical process. And for some people, this is much better and much easier for you to do, where the contour was harder. And some people struggle with this assignment. But it's about breaking things down into pieces and beginning to locate sections of an object. And it's starting with the central axis and drawing one straight line down through the center. Bottles are the best to draw in the beginning when you first start doing this, because they're pretty simple shapes. And you recognize immediately if one side is not even with the other side. You'll see it. Now the central axis helps you. You begin to see that left side and that right side, and you can make corrections with your eraser and correct the form. Now these are not perfect by any stretch. I don't expect them to be. It's always delightful when they are, but again, thinking of this in terms of a learning process, we see what works and what doesn't work. The thing I was impressed with this particular drawing had to do with all the different scale objects and the placement of them. So you have some objects in the front, you have some that are going behind in the back, and they're pretty accurate. Each one is, there's some distortions, of course we expect that always. Even your great Renaissance paintings, you can take a look at them in the museum and see distortions. This has a wonderful composition, and they've noticed the widest line. You can see the widest line as it moves across the form is, again, breaking it into pieces so that you can measure and look at these relationships. Negative space areas become very important. That's the space around the objects. So sometimes when you're drawing an object, you're struggling with it. If you look at the negative space area, you're going to see where that object needs to go in space. So we'll stop at this slide, go to another one very similar, different artist. This drawing, and I put it on pink paper. I play around, mess around with these. Sometimes I need to crop them, or I create a little more contrast. Your photography needs a lot of work. You need to continue to practice on your photography so that you're getting a better image, not tilted, and better light. And also, you have tools on your computer and tools on your cell phones now where you can play with the contrast a little bit. You can play with the paper background. And I encourage you to do that, even though it's not a requirement. I think messing around, we are working more and more with the computer, and to explore and see what the computer will do is very important. It's going to be part of your educational experience in your life from here on out. So some of you have been doing computer work since you were 3 years old. You know all the tools. I want you to use them. You know them. I want you to use them. It may be that you need to make the picture brighter, or the saturation of the color. But here's another great example. Different style artist, different style, a different artist. But you can see the line going down through the center. That's the central axis. It's the first thing you want to establish. How tall is that object? And you make a visual measurement of where it's located. And then you go from there. I really like this drawing. When it came in, I was really amused. So many objects. It was wonderful to see all the objects and see some variety, not just bottles, but they put an alarm clock in there, which was really hard to draw and just nailed it. It looks great. Little figure in there. But you can see the central axis. You can see the student really working on the drawing and see the process that was involved. I call those the ghost marks. Those are the things that we use as artists to create a work of art. They're oftentimes erased out. We don't see them. But for this stage in our development, we want to see them. We want to see where we're making these corrections. Does the bottle need to be a little shorter? Does it need to be a little bit taller? And you're looking at the relationships of one object to another. To make that measurement. I call this methods of measurement, and you look at those checkpoints where the objects are intersecting each other, where, say, this largest bottle, you have a cup next to it, maybe a glass next to it, and you can see where it intersects just above the lettering of 1 gallon. That's how tall that glass is going to be. And this large gallon jug, it gives us a method of measurement, a way to measure. So you're not just trying to measure it in space, you're looking at two things together and then determining where it's going to go in space. Now you can apply this information in landscape, the human figure, as I've said before in previous videos. It's anything you set up, you start making comparisons for basic things like proportion, placement, and scale. So what we have here, the central axis lines have been erased. The thing that I wanted to note that I didn't mention in the other slides have to do with making sure your forms are straight up and down. And that has to do with that central axis. And if the central axis is crooked, then your bottles will be crooked. So it's important to, in the early stages of the drawing, to step back. And I've mentioned this before, but stepping back means walking away from the drawing. Either pin it to a wall, lean the sketch pad against a book or a lamp or something, or put it on the floor and look down at it and get some space away from the drawing itself. Another way to look at it and see if the objects are straight up and down is to take it and put it up in front of a mirror in your bathroom, and you can see the image in reverse, and you clearly can see where the distortions are. The thing I want to talk, this one too, I think the thing that we haven't talked a lot about, but it had to do with the elliptical shapes, where they're located, and whether or not you're looking down at the container, the Coke can, or if you're looking up. You can see on this larger cup, as you look up, the largest cup in the background, you're looking up at it, so you don't actually see down into the cup. That has to do with your eye level, and we talk about eye level again when we look at perspective. So you have to establish where you are in space. Are you looking up at an object? Are you looking down at an object? And that's going to determine the elliptical shape itself. In our next unit of study, we spent a little bit of time looking at we did some exercises, as you recall, the ellipse, the spheres, making things look three-dimensional, using value and different techniques. And then we began to explore value match assignment, which has to do with the crumpled paper. I did show a planar analysis, and a couple of you, 3 or 4 of you, actually submitted planar analysis of your face, which was great. This one was so much fun. This figure looking up, the angle of it looks like you work from a selfie, which is great, and I encourage you to do that. Practice, 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 and explore that planar analysis on different forms and different objects. This is our first planar analysis, was our first finished drawing after doing several value exercises. This is investing more time and energy. It's spending more time, probably getting frustrated, throwing it off to the side, and starting another one. This is something we don't get to see in the classroom, but it's definitely, whoops, sorry. It's something that we don't get to see in the frustration we experience as we are working in a classroom. But I know all of you, I do it myself. We start over sometimes 3 or 4 times to get started. I like the placement of this one, and the basic shape was really quite nice. That's a contour line drawing starting off. Then you begin to draw the values. Wherever you saw a value change, you would draw that shape. And then from there we begin to look at, is it a black, a dark gray, a light gray, a white? And this is, again, something, planar analysis, that you can do over and over to understand volume. I stumbled onto this last semester. A student brought in a drawing with crumpled paper with lines in it, line paper. And that was fabulous because you can really begin to see how the line is. There's a thing called cross contour where you move across a form to give it a 3-dimensional look. And so you can see where these lines are changing direction and moving around the form. And that in addition to your value, helps you create an established volume. The shadow under this was effective. I think the cross hatching, the value range from black to white, black, dark gray, middle gray, light gray. And then, and it's great. It helps when it looks like paper, that she nailed it. Or I'm sorry, he nailed it, she nailed it. I apologize. I'm not sure. There's another one that's crumpled paper, that's lined paper. Hold on. This is it. Here's your crumpled paper, lined paper, totally different style, stylistically. Again, very much looks like crumpled paper. There's not a black in here, and not like the last one, but the crevices are not as deep. You don't have, it's a crumpled paper, but it's not, there's not a lot of crumples, and it's not a deep incised area that you had to draw into. So I think she nailed it. It looks like paper. It's working. And this one is the last slide for this video. Is another crumpled paper, but she went outside of the box and literally took it a step further, which I'd love to see this happen, where she has the crumpled paper coming out of a package, a wrapping package. The little dog in the corner is playful and fun, and of course you can do this. Once you have fulfilled the assignment, you can take it out and push it a little bit further. Encourage you to go back and do these assignments again if you have time. This at the end of the semester, play with these assignments over and over. Someone asked me about extra credit, and that is extra credit, is to do these assignments over and over. I want you to get better, become a better artist, and the only way you can do that is you got to put in the time. So with that, we're going to stop, and congratulations. We'll have another video at the end of the semester showing, hopefully, if the video guy's still here and working. He's the one that takes these slideshows and changes them into videos. We will be in luck and be able to see another show at the end of the semester. Have a great day. Bye-bye.